What would you get if you blended together Red Dead Redemption with some Elder Scrolls, a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus for good measure, some Street Fighter in there as well? Most would probably say a gigantic mess. But that's just Crimson Desert, one of the most intriguing upcoming action fantasy games from Pearl Abyss, and a title that I think has a potential to be the ultimate fantasy simulation of this era. A fantasy world that lets you partake in fishing, cooking, mining, arm wrestling, base building, character customization, fort sieges, bounties, dragon riding, a fantasy version of poker, some horse riding, a bit of Grand Theft Horse in there as well for good measure. And don't forget the ability to suplex and body slam into your enemies as well, just for good measure. It's a lot to keep track of. This game is doing a little bit of everything, and if it can hold up, we may just have the ultimate fantasy simulator. Now, Pearl Abyss has just given us 3 gameplay previews that highlight the activities in the open world, combat and progression, and story details, all of which I'm going to be breaking down with you today while showcasing a ton of brand new footage. And if you're interested in a breakdown of the engine and the tech that's powering all of this, making it all possible, I do have a separate gameplay breakdown that you can check out on the channel as well if you haven't seen that already. And if you have, we're keeping this all the way over there for this video. If you watch that video, you'll know what I mean. Now, the main thing behind each of these gameplay videos really comes down to one thing, and that is the ultimate level of player freedom. Live in this world, do what you want, play how you want, explore how you want. Everything in this game, in the story, is shaped by what you want to choose to interact with. Whether that's mining and hunting for resources or just buying what you need from shopkeepers, the option is yours to choose, and that's ingrained into every detail of Crimson Desert, which is by and large the most impressive aspect of this game. It really looks like you can do absolutely everything. Exploration and player freedom are at the heart of this experience, and I can see people getting lost for hundreds, if not thousands of hours in this world. And spending time out there in the open, exploring, adventuring is important because a lot of very intriguing gameplay mechanics revolve in just partaking in what's out there. Specifically, there's this cool mechanic where you can observe an NPC doing something such as fishing, and that lets you learn those skills for yourself. You can do this in combat to pick up new moves and abilities, or just to get lore about the regions that you're exploring. So wandering around in the world, getting yourself out there to have experiences is important. It's also how you're going to naturally come across a lot of the activities and meet NPCs that are going to have a wide range of activities and quests for you to partake in. Whether that's driving a wagon back to town to slow things down, really take in the environment that you're in and take you away from the action for a bit, or rescuing a civilian, or possibly taking over a fort, which NPCs will then repopulate over time, thus creating a cycle where you can interact with them, get even more quests to do while seeing the effects of what you do in the world. The developers have constantly phrased having emergent gameplay, that you come across, you discover things, you go out and do them, and this is one of those ways, and you get to see the effects of what you do. It makes the world feel alive and lived in. You see it changing and populating based on what you choose to ignore or interact with. Now, in the case of these forts, I'm not sure if it's instant or gradual over time. A lot of games, you'll see, hey, you cleared the fort, and then magically there's some people in there and it looks like it's been lived in for a couple months. I'm curious if they'll handle it that way, or over time you'll start to see more and more people move in and it gets more populated, shops open up. I would love to see it done that way. And throughout doing all of this, you'll gain reputation with the various factions that you are assisting. Reputation that can just as easily be lost because there is a crime and punishment system. You can get attacked by guards, you can even serve jail time if your crimes are bad enough. It's a big and bold world to go off and explore that is a single player experience, but thankfully you're not going to be tackling these challenges alone, because you can actually recruit the NPCs in the game, others that are part of the Greymanes or free swords, which I'm assuming are mercenaries, to go out and take on some of these quests and some of these challenges on your behalf. Part of the game pivots around rebuilding your faction called the Greymanes, who are basically the do-gooders of their region, called Payloon, where they keep the peace, they bring order to chaos, they protect the innocent, typical hero guild stuff. And you're going to find some of them out in the world. You're going to recruit others that will help you in your mission, because there are threats out there that threaten not just your home region of Payloon, but the other 4 regions found on the continent of Pywell, those being Hernand, where the adventure begins, Demonis, Dalesia, and of course, the Crimson Desert itself, each boasting their own unique environments, ideologies, and factions that you will need to build reputation with. And as you start to rebuild the Greymanes and bring yourself back into power, you, as Cliff the leader, can send them out onto missions. Think of the strike teams from Mass Effect Andromeda. You send some of these characters out into the world, they're unavailable for a certain amount of time, and then they'll come back with resources, gold, wood, ore, those sorts of things. And it's not as though these NPCs just disappear out into the world and then come back and that's it, you get a reward. They've actually showcased, you will see the world changing over time because of this. Not just a before and after state either, but in between phases. Most developers would just do the beginning and the end. That's it. And so you can send them out to help with some of these miscellaneous tasks, but you can also use them for bigger missions, such as whittling down and attacking fortresses on your behalf. You can see in the footage as time passes that the fortress defenses actually get whittled down. There's this percentage there over time, all while you can be doing something completely different in some far-flung corner of the continent. All of these characters that you're sending out have their own stats and levels, from movement speed to critical hit chance. So there's this whole game within a game of managing the Greymanes, leveling them up, and sending them out there and being the leader of this faction. And when all is said and done, and you've gone out in the world, you've quested, explored, gotten some new loot, some new abilities, you come back to your home base, which is growing and evolving in and of itself, the Greymanes camp, a whole brand new feature that they just showed off. Think a little bit along the lines of Red Dead Redemption 2. Here, you're going to be able to harvest resources from the camp's farm. You can customize and lay out furniture in this Fallout style sediment building system. You can set up tents. You can cook meals from recipes that you find out in the world. Once again, if you don't want to do that, you can go to someone in the camp and just buy provisions for yourself. It's completely optional which systems you want to engage with. Speaking of, there is this small little snippet here where if you look at the description of the food, there is mention of it being able to be stored for a long time. I don't know if there's a food spoilage system or not. Maybe someone in the comments can let me know, or if this is just simply flavor text. But at various points throughout the gameplay, you can see in the HUD that there's a temperature as well. Leads me to believe that there might be some survival mechanics going on to some extent. In addition, naturally at camp, you can interact with your fellow Greymanes, some of whom you may find directly in the world, others of which will hear news of your camp and they'll come over time organically to it. And then also take on something I'm very excited about: character customization. Now, Cliff is still a set protagonist of the game. You're not making your own, but you can change the color and the material options of your various outfits. You can customize any of the 3 playable characters in the game, each of whom have their own unique skills and movesets. You could customize your horse or a mech that you get in later stages of the game. There's hairstyles and tattoos, all of which just help to make these characters feel like more of your own, even though there's no direct character creator in the game. And on the subject of customization, just keep in mind, or go back and watch some of the footage as well, just keep an eye on the NPCs and the various outfits that Cliff himself are changing into and using throughout the gameplay. There's so much variety and style in there to really make it feel like something special. All the NPCs wearing completely unique and really cool outfits too. There's so much variation that just adds an additional layer of immersion on top of all the activities you can do. What Pearl Abyss is creating is simply amazing. And that's before we've even talked about the main quest. It's inevitable when talking about a game like this to just think, how is this possible? We've touched on this in my last video on the subject. I know that most of you have probably thought about some of this as well at some point in time, and I really think that the game, with all that they've shown, is speaking for itself at this stage. But for Pearl Abyss, coming from their background, creating this massive MMO, stripping out those online features that do take a ton of time and resources and put a number of restrictions, now they can just focus on the core experience for a single player game, while we're witnessing how they can utilize all of that knowledge that they needed to when creating a massive MMO experience. So within all of this in Crimson Desert, it's wrapped up in the mystery of the Abyss, which holds a ton of power that unsurprisingly cannot be trusted by most people, and it's where we've seen a lot of those sky islands, many of which feature Breath of the Wild style puzzles that you can go off and solve. Yet another thing that you can do within this game. And from the Abyss, there's these mysterious artifacts that are dropping onto the continent, which is the source of a lot of the abilities that you can acquire in the game. And this is one of the main ways that you progress and you level up. You do not get experience for killing enemies, but instead by the gear that you equip, the artifacts that you find. And you can see, for example, the player using one of them to enhance their stamina. Also, just take note of the 3 different characters, Cliff, Domain, and Unka. Probably butchering their names, I'm sorry. And also just not sure what's going on with the text there in that bottom right corner. That's possibly something for a day 1 patch, but there you go. There's still issues for them to work out. Finding these artifacts, observing the world around you is the incentive to go out and explore. Some of which you'll get just from exploring forgotten tombs and raiding for new equipment and new weapons. Others, as we touched on before, you're just simply watching what NPCs are doing and you'll pick up new skills that way. You might learn them based on these skills that enemies use against you in combat. We learned a body slam move in one of the examples that they showed off. Others you'll get directly by defeating enemies, and you'll actually be able to use some of the powers that they had, which is a very cool mechanic, and I wish more games would utilize something like that. And as you're watching the gameplay, you're going to be seeing some very complex combos going on, switching between swords to melee to grappling to magical abilities, very over the top. But the developers specifically highlighted when you begin the game, Cliff is more of a novice. You have to learn these skills naturally and over time, and so you'll organically flesh out some of these mechanics and some of these different systems, experiment with what you like, what you don't, see the types of moves you want to engage further to build out your specific playstyle. And of course, you do have the other 2 characters that you can play as. They can't participate in the main story that is Cliff's to go through and experience, but you can just play around with them, do some side content, and play around with different move sets that they have. And throughout all of that, you'll be utilizing different weapons such as swords, axes, polearms, melee, grapples. There's dual wielding, there's firearms. Some of these can all be combined with magical abilities to amplify or modify their power, and again, all tied directly to the progression for the 3 playable characters. And as far as the ultimate simulator goes, when you get bored of some of these activities or you just want to break from doing some of them, there's all the other activities. We touched on many of them, and that's not even all that you can do out in the world. Whether you're out taming mounts like bears or dinosaurs or horses or dragons at a certain point in the game, if you want to go and do some bounty board missions that you can come across, gambling, if you want to get in fist fights, if you want to do arm wrestling, there's horse racing, there's shooting competitions, there's just simple mining and crafting of resources. You want to go out and find insects they mentioned, or flowers, or mine for different ores. That's all available for you to do to take a break if you want to focus on crafting your own gear, or you don't care about that, want to build your own massively expansive stuff. Now, I have expressed these concerns in the past, and I'll reiterate them. The first, and the one that's on everybody's mind, is performance, especially on consoles. Every time we've seen footage of Crimson Desert, there's always that footnote that it's recorded on PC. So what compromises, what sacrifices are going to have to be made on consoles for my friends over there playing on Xbox or PlayStation? Really curious to see what that might look like, if any. The one saving grace, and they've talked about this in the past, is it's being built on their own proprietary engine, of which the PR manager, Will Power, specifically stated, we don't have any bloat. If you use a third-party engine like Unreal, there's a lot of features that you simply do not need to use for your game. That creates bloat and can hinder performance. Everything about Crimson Desert's engine was built for the ground up to do the things they're trying to do here. And then the only other area that I'm curious about is the story. Is that going to hold up and be this legendary, epic experience, or is it really going to be carried by the gameplay and all of these systems, which honestly, in a game that's this expansive, I don't have a problem with. I'm very excited to see everything you can do and just carry myself through the experience that way. The story can take a bit of a backseat, assuming all of these other things work well. So yeah, that about wraps it up for Crimson Desert. I'm crossing my fingers they can pull this thing off. I know many of you are as well. I have faith, but it's just so refreshing to see so much excitement, unanimous excitement for a game. Of course, some trepidation if it's all possible. I'm curious about the bugs and what that will look like. I'm sure a game that's this expansive is an absolute QA nightmare, so we'll see how big that day one patch that thing's gonna be. But they have over a month to polish it before release. The game's already gone gold. I think they'll do a good job. We've already seen a couple things. Maybe you guys have spotted some more issues in the gameplay yourself. But all in all, cannot wait. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you like fantasy games, RPGs, Bethesda as well. Would love to have you on the channel. Thank you, and I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.